David Osment. Stephen Short. Stephen Short. Colin Berryhill. Here. Adrian Blakes. Here on behalf. Aaron Davis. Aaron T. Davis, Memphis Police Department. Jeremy Dotson. Jeremy Dotson. Delvin T. Green. Delvin Green. Demetrius Walker. Marquise Wright. Marquise Wright. Traveris Hockett. Traveris Hockett. Michael Hansen. Here. Colton Taylor. Colton Taylor. Orlando Faison. Orlando Faison. Tyler Emmets. Here. Jeremy Singleton. Jeremy Singleton. Keith Garrett. Keith Garrett. Patrick Hubbard. Here. Ronnie Parnell. Ronnie Parnell. Michael B. Riley. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Riley. Okay. Tyler Milliken. There. William W. Wagner. William Wagner. William Hawkins. Here. So what we're going to do on the agenda is we are going to take the matters on the agenda for those that are here in order, and then we will come back to those that are not here. So we will begin with Colin Berryhill of the Memphis Police Department. Mr. Berryhill resigned with disciplinary actions pending. We have a representative from the Memphis Police Department. Yes, sir. Go ahead and step up, sir, and if you would, state your name, identify who you are, and tell us why Memphis PD is here.
I'm James Thomas, Senior Legal Advisor, Memphis Police Department. I have been in contact over the last few months with our ISB division, as well as Mr. Taylor, Mr. Berryhill's attorney in this matter. And after further review of this incident and the time of this past, because a number of due process concerns, we would respectfully request that the commission allow us to withdraw this request.
Questions from the commissioners?
Commissioner Wright, motion for no action.
We have a motion for no action. Commissioner Wright.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Cherry. All right, so the motion is for no action. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No action. Moving on to Adrian T. Blakes and the Memphis Police Department. Mr. Blakes was terminated for violating policies and procedures. Sir, I know that you've already identified yourself, but Memphis Police Department, but if you would just identify yourself again for the record and state why you're here.
James Thomas, Senior Legal Advisor with Memphis Police Department. Mr. Blakes is represented by Mr. Timothy Taylor. He has a request for the commission to suspend this matter pending appeal and ongoing litigation. We have no objection.
Commissioners.
Commissioner Wright, what do we have that's currently outstanding? Is there legal litigation still?
There is I'll let Mr. Taylor address the employment.
Certainly, he was terminated. He's filed a grievance. That's in the grievance procedure and that's pending. So we have a pending employment appeal challenging his termination. He is not a party to any of the other litigation regarding this incident, but there is certainly a possibility that he might be involved in this witness.
Guess my question then would be, were we looking at just extending this to a further date or placing him in some kind of a suspended status until that time?
Our request was, in fact, to place him in a suspended status, pending the conclusion of his employment appeal. That's my only responsibility for him is the employment appeal, and that's pending and will probably be some time. But once the employment appeal is over, depending on what the result is, we would advise the post commission of the result. If it's successful, then take the appropriate action. If it's not successful, then post can carry on with its program.
Commissioner Jeffers. So does the Memphis Police Department, is it part of the collective bargaining agreement, unionized labor as far as the grievance process, as far as that goes?
There's a collective there's a memorandum of understanding between the city of Memphis and the Memphis Police Association, which is my client.
Okay.
And so that grievance procedure is the one process.
Okay.
Have you had an opportunity to review or look at the proposed voluntary surrender?
Ms. Nicely sent it to me yesterday, and as I advised her, I was sort of slammed yesterday, so I have not had the chance to thoroughly review it or send it to my client. My initial review caused me some concerns, but I looked at it a second time, and those concerns were lessened. And I have a hunch if I continue to review it, my concerns will evaporate. But I have had a chance to see it, but I have not had a chance to speak with my client.
I'll make a motion to suspend status. I think it's appropriate. This is still as something that's pending that may change the view of the agency. We should let this travel course for further action. I make a motion to suspend this until the grievance procedure is finished.
Second that motion.
So we have a motion to suspend the decertification request, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, to suspend the decertification request, we have a second on that. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Placed into suspended status. Moving on to Memphis Police Department and Demetrius Walker. Again, sir, just identify yourself and if you would state why you're here.
James Thomas, Senior Legal Advisor, Memphis Police Department, on a petition to have Mr. Walker's post-certification suspended.
Sir, if you would, Mr. Walker, can you have a seat until he's done? Thank you.
Mr. Walker was a probationary officer with the Memphis Police Department on March 15th, 2020. He was listed as a suspect in a statutory rape report. He met with a juvenile on social media app called Grindr. He was detained by sex crimes and questioned. In his statement to sex crimes and investigators, he admitted to having a sexual relationship with the juvenile. He met with the juvenile 3 times and had sex with him twice, including in an abandoned apartment. In his statement, he admitted to never asking the juvenile his age. However, he admitted to buying Black and Mild cigarettes because he was underage. After buying the cigarettes, he did not question the juvenile regarding his age, and he admitted giving the juvenile $40 every time he met for sex. The case was presented to the Shelby County Attorney General for review. He was fired as a part of his inappropriate relationship as a probationary officer with this juvenile. As part of the charges in that case, he had called Memphis Police 911 and gave a fabricated story stating that an unknown male took his Memphis Police duty weapon from his side holster. The 911 call was captured and recorded. Memphis police officers were dispatched in an emergency mode to his location. After further investigation, he admitted that the duty weapon was taken by a male that he knew. And based on the serious allegations and the untruthfulness matters associated with this request, we would ask for his decertification.
Questions from the commissioners?
Are there criminal charges pending on this?
As far as I know, the Shelby County District Attorney General did not file charges.
Any other questions for the representative of PD? Thank you, sir. If you'd have a seat for us. Mr. Walker? You would just for the record give your name and tell the informal hearing subcommittee your side of the story.
Okay. My name is Demetrius Walker. First of all, let's say when he was reading the report, some of the stuff is not true. I did not give that juvenile $40 for sex. That part is not true. I don't know where they got that from. Let me start off by telling you who I am. My name is Demetrius Walker. I started off with the Memphis Police Department in 2017. Started off as a police service technician. After I became a police service technician, I was the first to become first Blue Cow PST to become a police officer. During that time, I did not know who I was as a person. I was trying to figure out who I was as a person. I came straight from high school and joined a serious career. I'm not gonna justify what I did when I met this individual. No, I did not ask for his age when we initially met, which I should have asked him for his age. So I take responsibility for that. The part I don't agree with the Memphis Police Department is they trying to charge me for 3 things. They're trying to charge me for truthfulness. I don't feel like I should be charged for truthfulness because when a person is in distress, and during that time, they was not out there when a situation happened. I was in distress. I didn't know what to do. I was panicking because that's when the juvenile handed me the gun back, that's when he told me the truth about his age. When we first started talking on Grindr, he told me that he was in his 20s. So I do not purposely go out here and just have sex with minors. That's not the type of person that I am. I'm also in the military. So one thing about being in the military, we live on integrity, doing the right thing, even when nobody is around. So therefore, that's not the type of person I am. What Memphis is trying to say. I don't understand why they're trying to make it seem like I'm just an all bad person. I'm not an all bad person. I'm in the military. I work at corrections. I've been working at corrections for 2 years, been in the military for 3 years. So I don't just purposely go out here and commit crimes. That's not what I do. I was very passionate about being a police officer. When I lost my, when I had to turn in my badge, I was hurt. I was badly hurt about that. Do I believe that I should be decertified because of one situation? No. Nobody's perfect in this room. We all make mistakes. I made a mistake. I cannot take back what I did. If I could, I would, but I can't. So I'm asking that you all do not decertify me because of one situation. I have grown. That happened in 2019. I was 21 years old during that time. I am 26 years old. I have grown. I have grown from a long ways. So I'm asking you all to give me an opportunity. Please do not decertify me. I feel like I would be a good police officer if you all give me a chance to consider.
Questions?
Mr. Walker, and this is Commissioner Chair.
Yes, sir.
In the packet, we have this statement. It says, you called Memphis Police 911 operator and gave a fabricated story stating an unknown male took your Memphis Police duty weapon from your side holster.
Yes, sir.
Is that true?
He did not take it from my side holster. My gun was it was in my truck because we was in my vehicle together. It was in my middle console. So he had when I had went inside the store, because he told me that he did not have his ID on him. That's what he had told me. That's why he come by the weapon out. So I had it in my middle console, and then when I dropped him off, I looked at my middle console and I realized that my weapon was not there. And then I immediately contacted him, and then I told him, I said, hey, I work for the Memphis Police Department. I need that weapon back. He came out of his house. You know, we was going back and forth, and then he eventually gave me the weapon.
Okay, did you call 911 and tell them that somebody had taken your weapon?
Yes, sir. I was nervous. I was panicking. You gotta understand, when you're in that type of situation, you don't know what you're gonna say. You don't know what you're gonna do.
But wouldn't you agree that it's kind of an act on its own when you're calling 911 and making a report? I mean, that takes some forethought and some foreknowledge of what you're doing and your circumstances. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, sir.
And you knew that was a false story that you were telling 911? That an unknown person took your gun?
Yes.
So just Chip Kane, Executive Secretary of Post Commission. So if your response under a stressful situation is to lie, then how can any court, how can anybody believe anything that you have to say about anybody that you've encountered on the street? Why should anyone believe you if your first response under any kind of stress is to lie?
That is really not my first response, but you gotta understand, I've never been in a situation like that before. When you've never been in a situation like that before, I was nervous, I was panicking, I was in panic mode. That's the only thing that I could think of I was in panic mode.
So instead of taking responsibility for your actions, you lied.
Because you know what I was thinking to myself during that time? I was like, oh my gosh, I do not want to lose my job, because I was, when you were passionate about something, the money don't matter. It's just, I was passionate about it. I was like, first thing on my mind, I got to do what I got to do to just keep my job. I did not want to lose my job.
So you're willing to do anything to keep your job, up to and including lie?
I mean, I'm not saying that I'm a liar, but I was, like I said, I was panicking during that time.
Commissioner Jefferson, said your effective resignation date was June 17th, 2020. So for almost the past 4 years, what have you been doing? Trying to find a way to better yourself. What have you been trying to do?
I joined the military. When I left the police department, I joined the military. Not only did I join the military, I've been working in corrections. I work in Hardeman County Correctional Facility. I'm now a case manager, which is the same thing. It's the equivalent to being a correctional counselor. That's what I do now. So I'm in the military. I'm also working corrections. And I also went back to school as well. The university.
Commissioner Wright. I'm gonna make and Mr. Walker, I'll say this too, you're right, probably everybody in this room has made mistakes, but I've never made any mistakes that resulted in this level of actions before. I hope nobody else in this room has either. I'm gonna make a motion to decertify the resignation in lieu of termination for violation of departmental policies and procedures.
Commissioner Beverly, second.
Can I say something?
Motion of the commission is to decertify. We have a motion by Commissioner Wright and a second by Commissioner Beverly. Any other discussion amongst the commissioners?
Councilwoman Thompson.
Any other discussion with the commissioners? All right, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, sir. The motion to decertify carries. Our counsel will explain to you exactly what that means for you and what your next step is.
Yeah, sir, you'll be advised or notified by the post commission that the decision of the commission day is appealable within 30 days. You have the opportunity then to appeal the decision of decertification to the full commission to be heard at a later date down the road.
Thank you very much, counsel. Next up, we have Michael Hanson from the Oak Ridge Police Department. We would have a representative from the Oak Ridge PD. Please step up. Chief, hope you had a safe trip down. And if you would, for the record, sir, please identify yourself with your name and go ahead and state the reasons why you're here.
Charles Smith, Chief of Police, Oak Ridge Police Department. Reference to Mr. Hanson. On July 19th, 2023, Mr. Hanson received a letter of reprimand from his captain for violating department rules of conduct related to neglect of duty and truthfulness. Specifically, on July 14th of 2023, he was found asleep in his patrol car by his sergeant, Nathan Gibson. Sergeant Gibson tried several times to contact Mr. Hanson by radio, but we got no response from him. When the sergeant talked to him later about it, questioned him about it, he said the reason why his radio didn't work, he didn't hear it, was because he was too close to the water where vehicles parked, was too close to the lake. The captain wrote him up, gave him a letter of reprimand. In speaking with Mr. Hanson about it later, we were concerned that there were maybe medical issues related to his ability to sleep or why he couldn't stay awake. So instead of, he's a probationary employee, instead of terminating him at that time, we placed him on light duty, and he worked in the office while he started to seek medical advice on what he should be doing for sleep issues he may be having. In August, a few weeks later, month or so later, he was going to firearms training to qualify. He was unable to qualify with his sidearm. The General Department instructor notified us that he had been unable to qualify during that time after multiple attempts in the previous week. So they took his weapons at that time, and for the next 2 weeks, he had different training staff work with him to try to get him to qualify. He was never able to successfully qualify with his sidearm. September 4th, this was August 31st when he was unable to qualify. September 4th, Lieutenant Holston informed us that Mr. Hanson was maintaining a website where he posted and charged users for access to original pornographic content that was created by him and or his girlfriend. This was a violation of Department Standards of Conduct. And it was also a violation of policy concerning secondary employment, which prohibits employment of establishments that sell pornographic material as to their principal business. September 7th, a few days later, Mr. Hanson was presented with a letter proposing his termination as a probationary employee, and at that time, Mr. Hanson resigned in lieu of termination.
Any questions for Oak Ridge PD? Thank you very much, Chief. Now, Mr. Hanson,
Yes, sir.
you would just identify yourself for the record and tell your side.
Yes, sir. Hello, I'm Michael Hanson. Formerly with Oak Ridge PD, currently with Scott County Sheriff's Office. On those specific days, I had fallen asleep in my patrol vehicle. I did not intentionally lie about where I was doing. I don't remember any of that conversation. After the fact, I went to see a sleep specialist for ORBD, and they did the initial examination and suggested it may be sleep apnea. I had multiple sleep studies scheduled when I met with the captain, and he brought up my girlfriend's OnlyFans, which I made no revenue from. Then I collected W-2 as just our OnlyFans. In regards to the firearms, I qualified once. Well, I went to a qualification once. There was no other qualifications. It was just going to the local gun range to practice. There was only one qualification that was formed.
Questions from the commissioners?
Commissioner Wright. Mr. Hanson, is Scott County, I guess you let them know that you had this pending.
Scott County?
Is it Scott County?
Yes.
Good. They know that you have this pending.
I believe so.
Have you said anything to them about it?
I thought they would have been informed. I don't think I said anything personally.
Do they know where you are today?
Apparently not. I was not aware that they weren't informed. Otherwise, I would have absolutely made contact.
You didn't think that a hearing that could potentially impact your ability to, are you a sworn law enforcement officer there?
Yes, sir.
So you didn't think nobody in the department knows you're here, like you didn't think that would be important to tell them that you were coming to a decertification hearing for yourself?
I think that would absolutely be important information that I made a mistake of assuming that they would be informed of, but I was mistaken.
Commissioner Wright again. Mr. Hanson, have you done any firearms training with Scott County since you've been there?
Not currently. About 2 weeks into my employment, my patrol vehicle hydroplaned into the oncoming lane. I collided with a fire truck and shattered my femur.
Or hear about that? Commissioner Ryan, I'll make a motion for decertification, for resignation, in lieu of termination for violation of departmental policies and procedures, along with failure to maintain post requirements.
May I say, there was a letter sent to
Sir, we have a motion.
okay.
There is a motion. They can't discuss.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wright for decertification for resignation in lieu of termination for violation of policies and procedures, and also for failure to maintain post requirements.
Correct.
And that is the motion that's on the floor. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Beverly, second.
Commissioner Beverly seconds. Any discussion?
One thing I would ask on the discussion, that roll call vote be made on this.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts I'd like to kind of run through here. I think it's, first of all, it's troubling that we've got an officer that's, asleep while he was on duty. It's also troubling that, he can't shoot. And probably one of the more disturbing parts of this equation is the foreign website that he was involved with. And I just want to put on the record that while I think that any involvement by our officers in the foreign website is abhorrent and damaging to the reputation and of the agency that person is a part of, we don't have any information about whether there was a connection made to the department in the foreign side activity as far as an alternate or an additional source of income. Don't have a lot of it. So I don't know that plays a big part or should play a big part of whether to decertify this officer. And as far as these other issues are concerned, the sleeping, that may have been part of a medical issue that we haven't got a determination on, and the issue of not being able to qualify. Those are, in my mind, they don't make this as it's a big issue that would warrant decertification. Simply not being able to qualify, I think, would take him out of the mix. So for those reasons, I hesitate to support the motion to certify. I think if we were going to move forward on this, I'd like to hear from the agency, let them know what's going on, and see what they want to say about continued employment or not continued employment of the officer, how his actions have impacted on the agency. So for those reasons, I will be voting against the motion to certify.
Commissioner Wright, I have another question for Mr. Hanson. Mr. Hanson, when you was hired on by Scott County Sheriff's Department, did you disclose why you were terminated from Oak Ridge Police Department?
I wasn't terminated, I resigned.
Resigned. Why you resigned from
Yes, sir.
Oak Ridge? So you made full disclosure to them those reasons.
Yes, sir.
Do we have anything from where Scott County is shows them now being under their department?
My computer crashed yesterday and I don't have that available. I can check if you want to give me a second.
Mr. Bella, I have that from Cadis. Mary Beth Nicely, Associate Counsel. Scott County sent a post packet to us on 10/20/2023. His employment from there has been active since 10/19/23, according to a case.
Commissioner Wright, if I can interrupt your question just for a second, I'd like to ask Mr. Hanson just a couple of perhaps direct questions to bounce off what you were asking. Mr. Hanson, are you telling us that you actually informed the current agency that you were caught sleeping in your car?
Yes, sir.
And you told them that you had been unable to qualify with your firearm?
Yes, I missed the qualification by one shot, and there was no reshoot performed for me.
Okay, and you explained that to your agency?
Yes,
And did you explain to your agency the situation with the form site?
I did, and there was never any departmental anything.
They weren't concerned about that?
No, sir.
Mr. Beverly, I have a question. Mr. Hampton, before you entered your patrol car in the unfortunate accident, did you qualify with a weapon through Scott County?
No, sir.
But you were carrying one?
They had given me one, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Wright, I'll let my motion stand.
And we have a motion on the floor for decertification, for resignation and leave of termination for violating policies and procedures and for failure to meet the post requirements. It was seconded by Commissioner Beverly. And do we have any more discussion amongst the commissioners? Now, we will take a roll call vote on this. Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Beverly.
Yes.
Commissioner Cherry.
No.
And Commissioner Jeffers.
Mr. Jefferson will have to abstain because I'm the mayor of Scott County and I will wind up being looking into this further.
All right, motion carries 2-1. So would you like to explain to him the procedure moving forward?
Well, it's like what you heard before, sir. The commission's decision is appealable within 30 days, and the commission will let you know by some form of communication, probably mail, what your rights are in terms of appealing this decision to the full commission.
All right, thank you very much. Now moving on, we have the Smyrna Police Department and Tyler Emmets. If a representative of Smyrna PD would step up.
First Investigator Kevin Creed, Florida Police Department wrote a letter to us saying he no longer wished to pursue this. Mr. Emmets had criminal charges pending. That he was here a few months ago, and the commission wanted to see his probationary period end. He did get an expungement, and it's off his criminal record, and then no longer wants to pursue this matter because that was the reason for the T-shirt in the first place.
All right, Smyrna PD is requesting a withdrawal of that. We have anybody wish to make a motion?
Mr. Wright, motion to no action.
We have a motion for no action by Commissioner Wright and a second by Commissioner Cherry. For this one, we'll do a roll call on this one as well. Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Beverly.
Abstain.
Commissioner Cherry.
Aye.
Commissioner Jeffers. All right, motion for no action is approved. Moving on, we have the Tennessee Department of Safety and Patrick G. Hubbard. Do we have a representative from the Tennessee Department of Safety? Good afternoon, sir. If you would just, for the record, identify yourself and go ahead and state the reason why you're here.
I'm Sergeant Chad Smith with Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security. I work out of the Department's Office of Professional Accountability. And Mr. Hubbard was a probationary employee of the department at the time of this investigation. And we received information from the Metro National Police Department that while attempting to apprehend a fleeing suspect that was evading arrest in a car, Trooper Hubbard joined the Metro National Police Department officers in pursuit of the suspect by following from a distance. During the pursuit, Trooper Hubbard's video camera in his car was activated 11 times due to speed or light bar activation. Upon each activation, Trooper Hubbard manually deactivated the camera. During the short activation periods, Trooper Hubbard did not always have his emergency lights and siren on as required by statute and policy. After the pursuit ended, Trooper Hubbard used force that was inconsistent with his training, and the force used appeared to be excessive. At no time during this event did Trooper Hubbard notify dispatch or a TSP supervisor of the pursuit or the use of force, and our department was not notified of this event until the Metro National Police Department discovered it in their review.
Questions from the commissioners?
Commissioner Wright, he exhausted all of his appeals.
No appeal was filed.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? All right, sir, if you would just have a seat and in case we need to call you back up. Mr. Hubbard. Gentlemen, if y'all go say your name for the record.
Yes, sir. Adam Izell, that's Izell, the Chattanooga Bar here for Mr. Hubbard. He does want to speak on his own behalf on some of the issues, but just to note for the commission, the sergeant noted he was a probationary employee, so he didn't have any appeal rights administratively, or he would have exercised those. We requested significant relevant information that his termination was based on that he's never seen, and we haven't received yet because of the time period it takes the Department of Safety. They tell me it'll be April 6th before they can provide the video evidence that his termination was based on. And I paid for that, but it'll be early April before he's had an opportunity to see that information. He respectfully opposes the decertification, but I'll let him speak on his own behalf. Any questions that the commission may have.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir. And say your name for the record.
Dr. Hubbard. I was previously employed with Tennessee Highway Patrol. On that day, myself and another trooper were attached with Metro Nashville's traffic unit due to the high drag racing that's going on around the city. We didn't have any further instructions. The only thing we heard was say, you are going to be attached with Metro tonight. So myself and another trooper, we just riding around the area. The objective was to just stop any speeder or anyone that we think is connected with the street racers to get identification. On this day, our dispatch came over the radio and advised us Metro was trying to stop two speeders going 100 plus miles an hour on 24. They had the helicopter up as well. Dispatch also notified us and said that one of the suspects tried to ram a Metro officer. And at that time, we was asking for directions of where the vehicle was. So we got the directions of the vehicle. On my way there, myself and another trooper and some other Metro officers blue lighted, ran emergency equipment on 24, heading back toward Bell Road. We exited the highway onto Bell Road. We cut our emergency equipment off. We were stuck at a red light. And I'm pretty sure every officer here has been stuck at a red light, and you cut your emergency equipment on to proceed through it. And once you get through it, you cut it back off. Well, in our vehicles, anytime that you reach a certain speed, the camera automatically cuts on. So when I reached that speed, like 80 something miles an hour, my camera activated. At that time, I cut my camera off or whatever. And once I came up to the light, I used my emergency equipment. I proceeded through the light, camera came on again because the lights were on. Once I cut my light back off, I killed my camera, my in-car camera, cut it back off. Proceeded, myself and a cavalry of other officers proceeded down to where we were trying to apprehend the suspect. When I first made contact with the suspect, tried to initiate a traffic stop on him, he took off on me again. Where our policy in Davidson County at the time was, for our Captain Dye, he stated that he didn't want any troopers in Davidson County to pursue due to the DA in Davidson County. So when I initiated the traffic stop, the guy fled from me. I cut my lights off and let him go because I knew the helicopter was above following. Once I deactivated my emergency equipment, I cut my camera off, my in-car camera off, and I just proceeded to follow in the same direction that the vehicle traveled in from a distance. And every time that I encountered a light, things like that, I used my emergency equipment to make sure that I was visible, to make sure the traffic was stopped. Once I proceeded through that light, due to our non-pursuit policy, but as well as we were attached on this operation with Metro. As I went through the light, kept my camera, cut my lights off, sirens off, stopped my camera from recording again to proceed on as well, just to stay in close proximity with the suspect at the time that was fleeing from Metro and the helicopter. Once the suspect again got back on the interstate on 40, going back westbound, I encountered this. Once he got on the interstate, only thing I could see was his taillights. I did not have my emergency equipment on the time, but I was still tracking his taillights ahead of me, still heading in the same direction that he was heading. The suspect exited the interstate and got off on Donaldson Pike, right there at 40 and Donaldson Pike. And once I finally caught up with the suspect, I came behind him, I blue lighted him again. He was stopped at a red light. And once I came up behind him, I blue lighted him, and he proceeded to go through the red light. At that time, me not knowing, his right front driver tire was deflated. At that time, I go through the red light behind him. The vehicle comes to a immediately stop in the middle of traffic. In the middle of traffic in the middle of the lane, the driver, me knowing that the driver has already tried to ram a Metro officer at the time, he just immediately exited his vehicle. He exited his vehicle before I could even exit my vehicle. And at the time, not knowing was he armed or anything like that, I exited my vehicle, had him at gunpoint. I'm giving him verbal commands. He's not listening at all. He's has his hands up, but he's steady walking away from me. At that time, I come around in front of my vehicle and I tackled the suspect, taking him to the ground to get him in custody as quick as possible. And that was it. During that time, with me just assisting Metro Nashville, at that time, I did not think about doing a use of force report at the time with just assisting Metro. And my partner that was there with me, THP, he did notify dispatch and let dispatch know that we did have one in custody as well. So that's my story.
Commissioner Wright, obviously I have a question. When you say your partner, were they in the vehicle with you, or were you still on the FTL program at that time?
When I say my partner, is that another trooper that was attached to the detail as well with me. We was in separate vehicles.
Okay. What was your prior law enforcement experience before Tennessee Highway Patrol?
I started my career off in Memphis PD, came on 25. I left came on in 15, graduated the academy in 16. I stayed there until 19. Left there, did a year stint at Metro Nashville, and came over to the Highway Patrol.
What is your current employment?
I just recently got employed with AT&T into the status of my on my post. So that's.
Commissioners, any other questions?
I have a question for his attorney. You expect that video and all that material to be made available to you in the next month and a half?
Yes, sir. I'm told that it was a weeks-long process. We requested them in December. It's the volume they have, I think, is the issue, but they told me in writing they expect April 6th. They confirmed that that's when they expect to produce it all and paid for it. So that's when I expect it, most likely. Obviously, that's the Department of Safety's control, though. If that changes, that'd be beyond my control.
I'd like to make a motion to leave this in a suspended status until that material can be made available. The commission can make a further decision at that point.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion to place this in suspended status. I'm sorry. Commissioner Beverly, did you put a specific time? Did you want to move this to April or
What day will we be meeting in April?
maybe, well, I don't have the exact date in front of me. Would it be safer to just say perhaps May? Give them
I'd
a
say
chance
May.
to get the video and then review it and come back.
I'd say maybe we give me enough time, let my amendment or my motion reflect as such.
Okay, motion to place this in suspended status and bring it back in May.
Just, this Commissioner Chair, just so I understand what we're doing here, we're not waiting for us to get the recording, but rather for the defense counsel to get the recording and then come back and he's maybe going to show it to us or share it with us. I kind of like to see it. We don't have it in our materials. I think that might be
I
something
think that would be important, need to be included for the record. So when you do have that, we ask that you bring it back.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second for suspended status and to bring this back up in front of the commission again in the informal subcommittee in May. We have a proper second on that. Do we have any discussion? Any further discussion with the commissioners on that? I will take the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Commissioner, if I may ask a quick question, bring it up before this subcommittee again in May, correct? Not that
Yes.
it's full.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, continuing on with the Tennessee Department of Safety, we have Michael B. Riley. If the representative from safety would please step up. You would, sir, just identify yourself by name and title and let us know why the Department of Safety is here.
Right. My name is Justin Roll. I'm a sergeant with Tennessee Highway Patrol. The facts kind of related to this case is Trooper Riley was dispatched to a motorist assist on I-40. When he arrived there were two young females in the vehicle. He had a quick interaction with them. Within a few minutes of interactions with them, he cut his body camera off. Subsequently, called a record to help get their vehicle outside the road, took it to a different location, another exit up the road. At that point, there was an interaction there where one of the females gave Trooper Riley $20 in cash. And after the stop, Trooper Riley messaged both the females on Facebook about it. So we questioned Trooper Riley about this stuff, and he gave some kind of conflicting statements regarding the allegations.
Any questions from the commissioners?
Commissioner Wright, he was not a probationary trooper at the time. How long had he been with the department?
I think he had just come off probation, so he was probably on for 18 to 20 months, probably.
Has there been any other documented incidents of?
No, sir. I think this is the only thing on this disciplinary history.
Thank you. No further questions.
Any other questions for the Department of Safety?
Commissioner Cherry, in his, as much as we know about his interactions with these two women, was there anything inappropriate in his communications with them, kind of come-ons or sexual harassment types of issues or anything like that that they complained about?
No, sir.
Did they complain about this to anyone for any reason that you?
Yeah, the way we kind of received the complaint was one of the females had complained to a friend, and that friend had reached out to the department saying they were kind of concerned about what had happened, and that's what kind of opened up the review for this complaint.
What aspect of the interaction did they complain about? Was it
I think their issue was the Facebook messages where he had messaged them after the stop.
But again, there wasn't any indication that he was trying to get a date with these women or anything.
No, there's no.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Riley, and I guess you're represented by counsel as well, sir. If you would identify yourself.
Be happy to. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jack Leonard. I'm at the Benton County Bar. This is obviously Mr. Riley. It's first time before this commission, so I appreciate y'all having us. I had Mr. Riley is currently employed by the city of Camden, Benton County, and unfortunately, I didn't make enough copies. I did send a copy to Mr. Gregory. I think it might have been too late to get into the record, so I have a couple copies I could pass around, and I'd like to read a letter. This is from Chief of Police George Smith for the Camden City Police Department. Like I said, I have 2 copies of it, not quite enough for all y'all. I'd like to read.
Yeah, certainly. Go ahead. Sorry.
So this was dated for today. It says, to whom it may concern, as Chief of Police for the Camden Police Department, I've been acquainted with Blake Riley and his working abilities in law enforcement for almost 10 years, and having been personally acquainted with Blake most of his life. Blake is involved in our community, coaching our youth in football, basketball, and several other projects. Blake is currently employed at the Camden Police Department. I have always found him to be competent and trustworthy. He has the trust of his fellow officers and their full support. Blake exhibits the highest degree of professionalism and enthusiasm in his work and takes pride in his duties and responsibilities. I believe Blake would continue to be an asset to our department. Blake is a devoted Christian who cares greatly for others. Thank you for allowing me to share some of my impressions of Blake. It would be a detriment to the city of Camden for him not to be allowed to continue his law enforcement career. Mr. Riley is obviously no longer employed by the state of Tennessee or by THP. He doesn't wish to be. He did not appeal his termination with THP. However, he does strongly desire to keep his post commission, and he very much enjoys being an officer and protecting the city of Camden. I know the people of Camden are glad to have him and would definitely hope that this honorable body allow him to keep his commission. I believe the commission should know immediately after his termination, within a matter of a couple of weeks, he was hired by the city of Camden, initially as a code enforcement officer, where he served in that role from April 2023 until October 30th of 2023, wherein then he was hired onto the city of Camden Police Department. It's been in that role since then. As I didn't get the sergeant's name, as the sergeant from THP previously stated, he has no other disciplinary history. This was his first incident, so to speak. And the city of Camden was fully aware that he was terminated from THP, and they were willing and obviously still want him employed at the city of Camden. I know Mr. Riley is he's sorry for any mistakes that he's made and hopes that he didn't undermine the public trust in law enforcement. And you know, he does take responsibility for his actions. We would just ask this honorable body to allow him to keep his post commission. He has no other disciplinary history, and his sergeant or chief on his behalf has written nothing other than a glowing report. Admittedly, this is my first time before this body. I was unsure whether to ask Chief Smith to come with me or whether a letter would suffice. So if the body would rather have heard from the chief, I'd ask you not to hold that against Mr. Riley, as that was my mistake, as never being present here before. I would say, you know, I believe he did, he admitted to messaging the young ladies. It was after his, shift that ended, I do believe. And there weren't inappropriate comments or weren't, asking out on dates or no sexual innuendos or anything along those lines. They had moved off the side of the interstate due to safety and because it was raining. They went to a gas station that was no longer in service, but to keep them out of the rain is why they called the wrecker and got off the side of the road. So.
Forgive me, my name is Commissioner Beverly. How did he learn their names?
He, through conducting, meeting with them, I believe he had seen their, license, information.
Like query the NCIC database, or they presented their license?
They presented.
Commissioner Wright, I'd like to hear from, Mr. Riley, just some of the circumstances around that, around that evening, that event.
I got called to the motorist assist. They had a flat tire on the left side of the vehicle. They were pulled to the right shoulder. I got them a wrecker en route because of the fact that the flat tire was so close to the edge of the interstate. I didn't feel comfortable changing the tire myself with my back exposed to oncoming traffic. And then once we got to the gas station where the tow truck had taken them, they did try to give me $20, and we argued about, well, we didn't argue, but I insisted that I couldn't take it and tried to give it back to them multiple times. And they insisted that I took it. My goal was to give it back to them in some way where it wouldn't be on my person. But I stuck it in my pocket after arguing with them for a few minutes about not being able to take it, and forgot that it was in my pocket. And then when the messages, it wasn't anything, there was no intent behind it. It was just, nice to meet you. Thank you for being good people. And that was all. I understand that my actions are not okay. I do regret, everything that has happened. It's not something that I'll ever allow to happen again.
Commissioner Wright, why did you turn your body worn camera off during that interaction?
When I was initially asked in my interview, I didn't remember turning it off. They showed me the video. I obviously turned it off. I admitted to that. But after so long, I've been thinking, this is all I've thought about for the last year. I cut my body camera off to try to help them get a tow truck that wasn't so expensive. And I understand that is not okay also. But that's.
So essentially, you asked them what record they wanted. They said, we don't know. So instead of doing next schedule, not knowing who that might be.
Sorry, sir. Go ahead.
And not knowing who necessarily that might be, that kind of gave you that, well, maybe if I turn this off and say, hey, such and such down the road will be a little bit cheaper than such as, I don't know which one it'll be, but it could be this one.
Right. Yes, sir. That's essentially that. They told me they wanted the closest one, so I called the closest one first. They weren't available. And I told them that, and they just said, we just want to get off the road. So I did end up calling Nick Skid.
So you attempted to call one personally with your cell phone?
No, sir. I asked dispatch to call the closest available record, which was Pierce Towing. They're just right off the interstate, a couple miles down the road.
I guess kind of my point behind it, it kind of looks like maybe all that was, well, here's $20 for saving us money on a record bill, kind of.
No, sir. No, sir.
Don't have any further questions.
Any other questions for this land acquisition?
Commissioner Jeffers. So the initial complaint that wound up coming in, was it from the people that received the correspondence between you and the two young ladies involved, or was it correspondence that two young ladies told the story to someone else and then those folks wound up reporting it?
I'm not sure who.
Homeland Security or whoever, trooper or.
Sir, you would just be sure to say your name again for the record.
Yeah, I'm Sergeant Justin Bull.
Yeah, yes, sir. My question was to them. So the initial Facebook conversation that wound up happening, so was it one of the two ladies that wound up filing the complaint, or was it the fact that one of the ladies wound up telling the story to someone and then the third party filed the complaint against the trooper?
Okay, yeah, it was that second part. One of the ladies had complained to a third party not involved.
Right.
And then she was the third party was the one who called into the office to file the complaint.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
I'll move that we take no action.
Commissioner Beverly, I want to second that.
That was, that's pretty close. Yeah.
Yield to him.
Okay, well, all right, we'll say Beverly then on the second. All right, so we have a motion to take no action by Commissioner Cherry, second by Commissioner Beverly. Any other conversation amongst the commissioners before we vote? Okay, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Motion to take no action carries. Thank you. Have a good day. All right, moving on. Next, we have the Tullahoma Police Department and Tyler Milliken. Do we have a representative for the Tullahoma Police Department? So if you would, for the record, just identify yourself and go ahead and tell us why you're here.
I am interim Chief Chase Sons, and I'm here to discuss the actions of Tyler Milliken on September 9th, 2023. The initial report I received was from another sergeant with the police department that Officer Milliken had attempted to stop a vehicle occupied by a subject he was familiar with. He knew to be driving under a boat license. When Officer Milliken attempted to stop that vehicle, the vehicle fled, and Officer Milliken was advised to terminate it. Officer Milliken stated a short time later that vehicle crashed approximately 3 miles from the initial attempt to stop. He made his way to the scene. After looking into the event, some things weren't adding up. We got a video from an adjacent business that showed Officer Milliken coming over some railroad tracks with his blue lights on approximately 30 seconds after the vehicle crashed. So after pulling several other videos from the area, it was apparent that Officer Milliken failed to stop when he was told to terminate the pursuit. He followed the vehicle for another 4 to 5 minutes, paralleling the vehicle in almost the same direction he went. The only time he wasn't directly behind the vehicle was on East Moore Street and East Grundy Street, which is the rest of the time he followed the exact path of the offender up until the time of the crash. The crash did result in a significant injury to the third party, which resulted in that subject being airlifted. District Attorney was contacted on this incident, and THP was requested to report the accident to the involvement of our officers.
Any questions for the interim chief?
I've got just one or two questions. Chief, is it your view that if the officer had stopped the pursuit, that the third party that was hurt might not have been hurt? That accident might have been avoided?
Yes, sir. It's my view that Officer Milliken knew the subject and knew where he lived. They actually passed that subject's house during the pursuit. Several times Officer Milliken did turn his lights on, he would turn them back on. But the one thing that really struck me is when he was about 100 yards from the crash site, he had his lights on. And when he got within about 50 yards, he turned his lights off and appeared to make it look like he wasn't pursuing the vehicle. Of course, that was caught on camera. They just stopped and got a horn on the guy. The guy knew it would be when it were happening.
So he knew who this individual was and where to live. Could have found him by other means than just chasing him.
Yes, sir.
That night. But I guess, and I think you might have answered this, but is your view that because that chase continued, high-speed chase, that's why the crash happened? And maybe if he had not continued to chase, the guy who was chasing might have slowed down and might not have been in a wreck and hurt somebody else. Is that kind of what you're?
Yes, sir. Again, our policy is when you're terminated to pull over the side of the road. He didn't. He just continued to follow the vehicle.
We should have just pulled over and shut everything down for a couple of minutes. Is that a procedure?
Commissioner Beverly, if I see down here, he said over the radio he was not pursued after being told to terminate, but he still was. Yep.
Any other questions for the department representative? For the department representative. And Chief, if you would just have a seat, we may need to ask you further questions. Mr. Milliken. Whoever wants to speak first, just identify yourself by name. You can make your statements.
Yes, sir. Well, briefly, thank you, Adam Izell of the Chattanooga Bar for Mr. Milliken. He does want to speak on his own behalf, but I just want to state briefly that he was with the department a fairly short period of time, no more than a couple of years, had no prior significant discipline. This has been devastating for him. He has a job offer in another department. He was candid with them about why he was terminated, and they're still willing and interested to hire him. So I think that's why he's respectfully opposing the motion that he's certifying.
Hey, I'm Tyler Milliken, former patrolman in the Tullahoma Police Department. So I was on this telephone with another officer speaking of an incident in an adjacent county to Tullahoma. And while we were on the phone, he was a couple car lengths ahead of me. And he said, "Hey, do you see that white car that just pulled out of the Exxon?" I told him, I said, "I do not." He said, "Well," he gave me the suspect's name. And I said, "Okay, we both know him. The other officer and I both know him from our correction days. I spent 5 years in corrections in Franklin County where I moved up to sergeant. So we know him. He's constant felonies, just overall, always has warrants. At this time I was unclear, but he told me, he said, "Hey, he pulled out behind me. I know he doesn't have a driver's license because I checked on him. I saw him driving last week, ran him. He doesn't have a license, but I was headed to another call, so I couldn't address the situation." So which time I observed the white car that he spoke of take a left. I was a few car lengths behind. It was 4-lane highway, North Jackson Street. So I waited on a couple cars. I took a left. I saw him go across one set of tracks, take a right, and he took a left on the first street before I even went across the tracks. So I managed to get behind him as he approached a stop sign, lit him up, and he floored it, kept going, didn't look back. At which time I disengaged my lights and my sirens right there, probably not even a quarter of a mile, maybe, after he took off from me. he was headed towards, Dawson Apartments, which is a housing unit. There's always children out playing, always, in the middle of the road, any time of day or night. So, you know, I was concerned. The only policy that I violated was not stopping, for the 2-minute duration, as I should have. So I took a right to go perpendicular to him. My objective was to stay in the area in case we got a call of something tragic happening. He was kicking up all kind of dust. I said over the radio that he was going over 100 miles an hour. There's no doubt in my mind that he was doing such. So I stay in the area. At one point, I observed him just flying down East Warren Street. So I stopped at a stop sign and I maintained a visual on him. And East Warren Street has a double set of train tracks, but they're offset. So he lunges over the first set and he goes airborne. His car turns sideways and I see a big ball of dust. So I start heading that direction. No lights or sirens activated. I come up to an intersection, a quarter mile away or so from South Jackson Street, 4-lane highway. I see some sort of movement on the left side of the road on the adjacent tracks. It's offset. I can tell there's some sort of like a person, something standing on the left side. I can just see a head because the tracks are elevated. So at which time I did turn on my lights and sirens and proceeded to that intersection, believing that he had wrecked. So I get to the intersection and what I observed was a male on a motorcycle pushing a motorcycle. So I stopped, I see he didn't wreck. So I turn off my lights and my sirens. I stop and the guys just point continuously towards South Jackson Street. Well, the East Warren Street travels straight across South Jackson Street. And the couple of stop signs that I did see, the suspect blow through without hitting his brakes, touching him at all. I believe that he just continued straight on East Warren Street across South Jackson Street, 4-lane highway. So I approach the intersection and I see a black sedan, which I later learned was the victim's vehicle. It looked like it was a vehicle just kind of parked up on the grass because the way he had struck the vehicle actually turned around so the damage was not facing me. I mean, it looked like a vehicle parked in the grass in front of a residence. So I immediately saw, as I approached the stop sign, I immediately saw the suspect vehicle who had crashed into a tree. So I pull up, my lights and sirens are not activated. This happened just like that. So I pull up, no lights, no sirens, jump out of the car, do a felony stop on the vehicle, order the driver out. Witnesses on 3 different occasions, witnesses said he ran this way, behind AutoZone. And on those 3 occasions, I told the witnesses, it doesn't matter. I know who he is. We'll get him later. So a body camera, I have it on my phone right now. You know, my intent, my objective was to stay in the area in case a tragic event happened, as it did. There just so happened to be an ambulance there on the scene, sitting there. So they were kind of the person on the scene. I wasn't close enough to get the guy's tag number. I barely got the make and model of the vehicle just because I'm familiar with the style. I mean, I was, and then, so everybody went to the hospital. While he was in the hospital, my sergeant and I went to the hospital and spoke with his girlfriend because he had fled the scene, wasn't around. So we spoke with his girlfriend. My sergeant said, why did he run even though the officer turned off the lights or the officer wasn't pursuing him? Why did he run? And she said, because. And that's all I heard on my body camera. I don't think we have the other body camera yet of my sergeant. But her rebuttal was because. So there was an explanation as to why he ran, even though I wasn't behind him. So at that point, I had to do a use of force because I did draw my duty weapon. So it's kind of policy that we do a use of force for that incident. And via telephone, I was talking to my sergeant. She said, hey, I have to review your body cam footage. And I said, I didn't record, my body cam didn't turn on until I was like at the accident scene. She said, okay, that's fine. Just write out a statement. At which time I did. There was an off-duty sheriff's deputy. I don't know what jurisdiction he was from. He showed up on scene, wrote a written statement, notifying THP that I did not pursue. He saw me turn off my lights and sirens. There were the guy on the motorcycle that was facing the direction that the vehicle came from told me on body camera, I didn't even see you. Two other witnesses on body camera on scene said they did not see me. And that was just kind of a like, you're here awfully fast. You know, like you're here. I wasn't there fast, you know, it was like probably 30 or 45 seconds, I think, after he crashed. But my intent was to maintain public safety and be sure that I was at the accident scene when it happened. The accident was very imminent. We did speak, I will add, we did speak to his mother. We found out his address from his girlfriend who was trapped in the vehicle. We did find out from his mother that he and her have very violent domestic issues. She was absolutely terrified and scared to death of him. She actually is the one that gave him up where she took him. That's all I have. If you have anything.
The only thing I would add, Commissioners, is that the body cameras that Mr. Milliken referred to, we requested those a couple of months ago. The district attorney's office, apparently, and I'm not saying it incorrectly, they advised the city not to produce them because they're evidence in the serious case against the suspect who caused the wreck. So they can't produce those at this time. My understanding is he's going back to court sometime in March. I don't know the disposition of his case or when it may be over, so we can obtain the body camera videos that would shed some light on unresolved questions. That's the only additional information I have that we don't have on our possession.
I will add one thing if you don't mind. Not relevant to this case, but there have been instances. Just to name one, I backed into a dumpster. You know, it was 2 a.m. Nobody was around. I immediately called a corporal and said, hey, this is what happened. You know, I report incidents. If I do something wrong, I definitely own up to it. That's all I have.
I don't really have a question, but I'm quite concerned utilizing the domestic history or domestic violence potential between these two individuals. Are you trying to test that as some sort of reason to continue the pursuit, that it, kind of a justification of such?
Not at all, sir. Not at all. It's a character thing that I was familiar with. You know, he had been arrested for domestic, not only against his mother, but I later found out that they were very, very violent towards his mother.
I'm just failing to see how that plays into the situation.
It's just a factor in character. That's in my familiarity with him.
But you were pursuing for a license offense?
So I went perpendicular to him on several occasions. My intent was to stay in the area. I mean, they're calling it a pursuit, and I think that's kind of where I'm, you know, up for debate, I guess.
All right, let me rephrase it. Your initial reason for turning on your blue lights was a license offense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Commissioner Jefferson, so on that license offense to build off what he just said, you were getting that off of secondhand information that another officer was relaying to you on a cell phone, that basically he was telling you that I know this person has a suspended license because I pulled him over for, but that's not due to the fact he did a criminal activity to bring that attention. That's just one of those, hey, I know that guy, he's got a suspended license, but you know, it's not like it was, hey, I saw this guy's got a broken tail light, pull him over, run his license, kind of there you go to see the situation. It was coming off of basically secondhand knowledge that he just has a suspended license, just going off of that.
Yes, sir. That was my initial reason for the stop.
And one other question I have, so in that, and far as the policy and procedure is concerned, were you instructed by your supervisor to discontinue the pursuit?
Oh, yes, sir. Now, I also add one more thing.
Sure.
If you don't mind. So our body camera policy does state, and I realized this a couple of weeks prior, when I was kind of going back reading over policies. It does state that you can turn off your body camera to have a private conversation with another officer.
The only issue that I wind up having, what I brought up is this: when you were instructed by that supervisor, disengage that pursuit. Had you struck somebody and had you killed someone or injured someone or even injured yourself, that puts that department liable for your actions as well as you personally liable, for those actions, because you were given direct orders to disengage. So, I mean, that was the reasoning why I was asking that as well. So
absolutely. That's why I wasn't traveling at a reckless speed. Driving perpendicular, staying in the area at that time, observed his vehicle the second time.
Okay. Thank you, officer.
Ms. Commissioner Wright, Mr. President, in here in their report, it's got, you said you didn't think you was that reckless. Your speed approaching the wreck and the fact that you pulled out into traffic, almost striking another vehicle, would suggest otherwise. Are you saying like you weren't being reckless in your opinion?
There was a vehicle in every single lane of traffic that was stopped. Nobody was moving. Everybody was stopped. So at that point, that's what led me to believe that he had proceeded forward through the stop sign without stopping at all, because all vehicles were stopped almost like a shock mode. And that's when I approached the stop sign and observed both vehicles. I would like to add before we vote, if I can add something else.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I wanted to be a police officer my whole life, my entire life. I got out of driving in trucks, making 6 figures a year on that. Went into corrections because I knew that's where I had to start. I lost 250 pounds to go to the police academy. It meant the world to me to make it past that step. I would ask that I keep my post certification, please. I mean, if there's anything we can do.
Ms. Commissioner Beverly, I want to commend you on with the efforts you made to get to the police academy and pass everything. But I'm reading this policy, and this policy is there for this exact reason. And some of your verbiage doesn't lead me to really a full acceptance of the responsibility of what happened. You use the term perpendicular. Well, the policy here says parallel. To me, it seems like you're using that as a technicality to say, well, I didn't violate policy. We as law enforcement have to use what is on the radio as gospel when we are making decisions with other officers. But since you're telling them I'm not in pursuit, we're going to believe you're not in pursuit. But the policy says right here, you are not to try to run parallel, an effort to catch up to. It just seems like this is a direct policy violation. And when you said I'm not in pursuit, you utilize verbiage that saying, well, I'm not violating this policy, but I'm continuing to act in a way that could lead to some type of negligence.
Right. Yes, sir. And I accept full responsibility. I'm not denying that. Like I said, I completely own up to whatever happens. And as a patrolman, that's definitely, integrity is definitely a big issue. I do maintain that. And I'm honest with the public. I feel as though I'm honest with superiors. I did not feel at the time that I was in pursuit, but by policy definition, you're exactly right. The policy does say that. And if I was in pursuit, I own up to it. But I just didn't believe that I was at the moment. But I'm definitely capable of making sound decisions.
Anything further, Commissioner?
Mr. Wright, I'll make a motion to move to the full commission.
Commissioner Beverly, second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wright, seconded by Commissioner Beverly, to send this on to the full commission. Do we have any further discussion?
Just a little, Commissioner Chair. Just so you understand what we're doing, it's kind of like we're sending this down the road to the full commission to consider this. And I think maybe for good reason. In my view, it appears that there were some policy violations and you've taken responsibility for those. Sounds like you were told to curtail the pursuit and you kind of did a modified curtailment, sort of stay in the area, trying to catch the guy and trying to stop him, not completely following the policy. So there certainly were some things that were in violation. And the question I think this commission has to determine is what mistakes are worth. It warrants a revocation of your certifications. And I think by sending it to the full commission, it gives the full commission a chance to work on this, chew on it, and determine what's appropriate. I would personally commend you for coming before us today and trying to lay this out for us and taking responsibility. And I'm sure the commission will look forward to hearing from you again.
All right, thanks, sir.
That's all I have.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to move this to a full commission by Commissioner Wright, second by Commissioner Beverly. Any other discussion amongst the commissioners on this motion? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor of moving this on to a formal hearing with the full commission, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, this will move on to the full commission, sir, for a formal hearing. Our staff will be in touch with you to set that up, or with your attorney to set that up. The sirens outside, just so not everybody's alarmed, we are actually doing pursuit training next door, so.
Very appropriate.
Yes. Okay, we have one final matter for as far as folks that were here earlier. We will call the roll again for those that were not here. But it is the Wilson County Sheriff's Office and William E. Hawkins. Mr. Hawkins resigned in lieu of termination. If a representative from the Wilson County Sheriff's Office would approach the podium and let us know, first of all, sir, your name and title, and then go ahead and tell us why you're here.
My name is Matthew Bush. I am the corporal over our training division and the point of contact for Tennessee Post Commission. I'm here representing the Wilson County Sheriff's Office on an incident that occurred with a former employee, Mr. William E. Hawkins. Mr. Hawkins was hired by our agency in April of 2022, assigned to the Corrections Division. And I have here that in September of 2023, he was promoted to the Patrol Division and was admitted into the Toledo class of January 2024. So his paperwork had been approved by Post and had been sent to Toledo. At that time, he was still working in corrections and he was a part of our pre-academy program. On
November the 3rd, an incident occurred in Sumner County, Tennessee, where Mr. Hawkins was said to have used his emergency lights in his personal vehicle to possibly make a patrol stop. I do have that report with me today. I can read to the body if you feel if needed. We were informed by by Gallatin Police Department that the incident occurred. At one point before this ever happened, Mr. Hawkins was instructed by our administration to remove the emergency lights from his car. And also just to point out that the car in question was a 2013 white Ford Taurus, which is also referred to as a police interceptor. I'm not sure if it was ever used as a police car before. He, bought that off some type of government website, but it did, resemble very closely to what we would consider a law enforcement vehicle. And in light that Mr. Hawkins would be leaving the correctional division in uniform, in light of the public driving this vehicle, he was instructed to remove those lights. Also, there is a TCA law that states that as well. That being said, after an investigation on our behalf on November the 6th, Mr. Hawkins did resign in lieu of termination for violating policy 2.14, which is the obedience to orders, rules, and laws. Like I did say too, I did not read or paraphrase any of the narrative, but if need be, I can give you further details on the incident that occurred in Gallatin PD. I don't have the actual report, but I do have the written statement from the officer that did respond.
Has he graduated the police academy?
He has not.
And I was actually going to ask, was this referred to the district attorney general?
Not on our behalf. That up to the point to where he did resign, that was going to be in the hands of Gallatin Police Department. So we did not know at the time whether charges were going to be filed.
Forgive me, but what action can we take when no certification has even been granted?
And that's what we were sort of having a bit of mental gymnastics about. So it was almost kind of appears more like a pre-employment waiver issue where there's been some integrity issue, maybe potentially some criminal matter that might have precipitated a waiver, but we don't know for sure what happened. You're right. Generally, with all of these, there's a certification that's an issue. Here, there's no certification. The only thing that I can find in the rules, and this would be under chapter 2, and law enforcement certification requirements. But again, this would be more like if someone had come to us during our normal Friday meetings for a pre-employment waiver as far as moral fitness or character. So from a decertification standpoint, there's no decertification to take. So I don't believe the commission has any authority to take something.
I believe this was kind of put into motion because when Mr. Hawkins was released from our agency and we went through the ACADIS system, where we did apply that he resigned in lieu of termination, that obviously flagged that. And then I also sent a letter in explaining his current status, that he was going to be removed from Toledo's role. And that this entire process was initiated by post. But he was, like I said, he was issued a PSID number.
And this has come up before in the past, and we've got a couple of guys that are pending formal hearings that are kind of in the same boat, that it's the denial of the application for certification, the way that's been looked at in the past. So, and I kind of see where you're saying that can be kind of looked at both ways in that particular certification section of the rules. But that's just how it's been interpreted before in the past, so.
Mr. Hawkins still here?
And can I just add one thing?
Yes, go ahead.
Kevin Green, post investigator. Corporal Bush did reach out to me. His agency did reach out to me saying he was not certified. And I told him that to move forward with this certification process after it was already in motion, because I was under the understanding that you can make someone not certified in the future. So this may be part of my error in judgment too.
Well, and with,
Error.
pardon?
I said, I wouldn't call it an error. I can appreciate the transparency.
Okay, absolutely, sure. Does anybody have any questions for the representative of the Wilson County Sheriff's Office? Would the informal subcommittee like to hear from Mr. Hawkins himself as well?
I guess with us not being able to take any action anyway, it's not gonna really matter.
I agree. The fact that he is a post ID led me to think that any agency that tries to bring him forward, that would be a red flag to start checking in.
We flag that in our system on our side that somehow this automatically ought to be there somehow to get caught in the future.
I mean, I will say, just from my standpoint, because I see this probably more on a regular basis, anytime we hire somebody, I can tell you, we're probably not going to check if they had a post ID number. If they say they've never been certified, then we're going to assume they don't, because there's going to be very few situations that you'll encounter where you have a person who is getting ready to enter the academy that's been approved, getting ready to go, and then something like this happens. So that I can understand the post part of why, you would go through with that investigation.
The one thing, Commissioner Jeffers, the one thing that I would be kind of, if I didn't kind of wind up doing this out here myself, I feel kind of bad not doing it as well. But it's kind of like one of those things, if he hasn't, been through the academy, like I said, there might be something to screen out pre-employment, there as far as the record. But if we wind up hearing from him today, this wind up being in an administrative hearing type setting for that. If there have been no criminal charges brought against yet, would it be one of those things that would be a possible self-incrimination for him at this point, by wind up, kind of speaking, on something, that may or may not have criminal charges pending, just that's my thought on that too, just for not only us, but also for his rights as well on that. I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but I've been in administrative settings before, so.
Our counsel did just tell me though that, this could be referred over to the full commission, the entire commission to discuss.
Yeah, I think that's the only action that you can take today, just on this.
If I could, let me just ask another couple of questions here, just this body, because I'm not sure I understand exactly how this is all working administratively, but as I understand it, Wilson County is sponsoring this person to come and go to the academy. Is that right? Who's paying the bill?
I believe they were, but right now the state would be paying the bill for Wilson County for this person to attend Toledo.
So even though Wilson County has sent him to the academy, if they want to withdraw him and not have to go to the academy, aren't they still kind of on the hook here somehow if they withdraw that application? Does that kind of end the story for us?
Well, he is not in the academy.
Right.
No. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, on my part, anytime I have a person at our agency that has been issued a PSID number, I have to obviously inform post that person is no longer a part of our agency anymore, and I have them removed from our workforce through the portal. In doing so, you do have to list why, and you're given several options. One being reside in good standing, and then obviously reside in lieu of termination. So once you choose that, you do have to add a few more sections for report purposes, which would inform them if there was any type of criminal charges. And I will say there's no criminal charges on our part because it did occur in another jurisdiction.
Yeah. And it's flagged that way in hopes that when he potentially goes to the next agency, that if they reach out to us, we can say, hey, he resigned in lieu of termination. There's some things you may want to call the previous agency that employed him to find out some more details. Or if there was something that was submitted with the employment status change, they can file an open records request and get that documentation that's been attached to his file. But unfortunately, not a lot of agencies reach out to us before they hire someone. So there is that potential for this to move forward and slip through the cracks if he were to go to another agency.
But I guess I'm kind of trying to think this thing through. I mean, if this officer had gone to the academy for whatever reason, failed to complete the academy, he would not be certified. We wouldn't have any jurisdiction to follow up on this. this is kind of similar to that. He did something that would cause him to not complete the academy, not even begin the academy. And so even though he has a number, where do we have the jurisdiction or the authority to revoke something that's never been earned or awarded? I just don't think we quite get the beginning.
Well, and with regard to the academy, General, I would say this, that if we expelled somebody from Toledo, it would be our decision, my decision ultimately, whether or not to allow that person to attend. And so if we expelled somebody, for example, for an integrity violation, and I decided not to allow that person back into the academy, then their only option would be to go to a different academy, which would require a waiver for this commission to hear it. I will say in just a side conversation with our council just a second ago that I think the commission could have the authority to require a future application for certification for this particular person to come in front of the full commission to be voted on, very similar to a pre-employment waiver in that regard. So I think that if we wanted to continue, that is an option there. So he's not certified, and we can't take something, we're not going to, certify him and then take it away from him today, right? But I think that may be a good option for the future, because it sounds like, this is something that is worth, I think, the commission perhaps in the future hearing about if he wants to continue and become a law enforcement officer. That's my 2 cents.
And to answer your question, I think the question that needs to be answered by the board is, do you deny an application of certification and essentially prevent him from being a law enforcement officer in the state ever moving forward? And again, just historically, like I said, we've got 2 or 3 that are in the same boat that have never graduated an academy, never been certified, that are pending full commission hearings. So if this is something that would need to be discussed by the full commission, we would probably need to go back and revisit those other cases as well. So it was just move forward because that's what we've done historically in the past.
And to say also, just to you, sir, the Wilson County Sheriff's Office did everything it's supposed to do. When you submit an application for certification, we're going to have to enter that person into a CADIS. There's quite a few people in a CADIS that never completed an academy. And, you have to have a disposition on that person. And so the Wilson County Sheriff's Office did everything correctly in this case. So I want to commend you for, taking the time to take somebody out of a CADIS. I'm sure there's probably, 1 or 2 people that are still in our computer system that probably haven't, put a shadow across the front door of their police department in a while. So, I just want to make sure it's clear that Wilson County did everything it should have done in this particular case. I just wanted to say that.
I will say, just one thing, future reference, we've run into this issue before. And the good thing is that we did have a person we were going to send to the academy at one time. And when we sent the application in, one of the post investigators did find that there were something on that person's record from where they had attended an academy in Metro. So that was a red flag, which we would not have known that unless we looked at their PSID number. So that's something that's there that will continue to be there. And we had to apply for a waiver, and a waiver was granted. That's something that I believe that's why this standard is probably in place as well.
And I think the question was just asked, would we flag this for pre-employment waiver? Would we not need to hear from Mr. Hawkins and let this informal subcommittee make that decision, make that recommendation to the full commission? Would that be the proper? Okay. Thank you very much, sir. If you would just have a seat, and in case we need you, Mr. Hawkins, why don't you go ahead and step up to the podium and identify yourself for the record and tell us why your side of the story.
My name is William Hawkins. I work for the Wilson County Sheriff's Office for approximately 2 years. It was a Friday evening. I was heading to pick up my kids after tourniquet training. I was in my personal vehicle. It was equipped with blue lights. When I arrived at the Thorntons off of Long Hollow Pike, where me and my ex-wife picked up our kids, I was stopped by originally Sumner County Sheriff's Office, and then Gallatin PD had came in and took over the call. When Gallatin had showed up, he had asked me what happened when he attempted to stop that vehicle. And I told him I didn't attempt to stop the vehicle. There was no attempt to be made. There were vehicles behind me, but there were none in front of me. I was headed on 109 North. Because I live off of 109 South. So the officer asked me if the blue lights work, and I stated that they did work. He came back to me after making a couple phone calls to whom he had made a phone call to. He said, "Today you're lucky you're not being charged with anything." He said, "I hope this is a valuable lesson to be learned," and it was. I worked hard to get to where I'm at. I've worked really hard to get to where I'm at. This is a dream of mine, and me going to the academy was a huge accomplishment for me. I'm a single father. So for this was huge. I don't believe that I deserve to have my post certifications revoked due to an incident that was made. Yes, it was ignorant. I had neglect. The only thing that I'm guilty of is neglecting taking out the lights in my car. That was my own negligence that I do admit to. To my knowledge, there have still been no charges made through Gallatin PD. To my knowledge, I haven't received a warrant or anything of that nature. It's just a dream for me to become a police officer, and that's what I worked on to become.
Why'd you have emergency equipment in your personal vehicle in the first place? You weren't a certified officer. You been working in the jail.
So I started off with Sheriff County, and I started off with Davidson County Sheriff's Office. Realized I wanted to become a patrol officer. That's when I transferred to Wilson County. I bought the car because it's what I could afford. Like I said, once again, a single father. So money's very, very tight. The emergency lights, they were in there because I was excited. To be honest with you, I was excited. My dream was coming true. I was becoming a police officer.
So you put them in your vehicle?
Yes. I personally bought them off of Amazon and put them in my vehicle. It was a windshield visor and then the back visor lights.
Why?
Once again, I was excited to become a police officer.
I mean, I was excited.
And
I was excited to become the police.
And I understand that.
And I was never tempted to put a blue light in my personal car before I became the police.
Commissioner Jeffers. So here's the one thing that always sticks in the back of my mind. There's definitely, evidently you got all the motivation in the world inside of you. There's no doubt in my mind, just to hear you say that. However, when you wind up purchasing those blue lights, becoming a little bit overzealous, if you happen to be out, if you saw maybe a crime being committed, what would have been your instinct?
To assist.
See what I'm saying?
To assist, yes, sir. And
not certified to do it, not authorized to do it.
Correct.
And then you've got yourself personally, not that department, in a whole lot of trouble just because of being overzealous. And I appreciate anybody's got hopes and dreams and motivations. I've had hopes and dreams and motivations myself, but you got to wind up, kind of put a little bit of a muzzle on it, a little bit of a collar on it there to keep it under control.
Yes, sir.
Because this is to the point it's gotten you to now, right? And when that officer in Gallatin, maybe they will pursue charges, maybe they won't. My instincts probably tell me they probably won't. But that officer gave you the biggest break you've ever wound up having in your life when he wound up telling you to strip that out of the vehicle, take a lesson learned and move on with your life. So, I hope you wind up understanding that.
Yes, sir.
My question, I guess, to council, this seems like something we pursue. What would be y'all's recommendation for us moving forward? Just to make sure we're clear on that.
Well, it seems to be that in keeping with what we've kind of done in the past, and as far as giving it an option for you all today, probably would be to just refer it to the full commission. It seems that there's authority to do that at least, because you're not taking any action other than just sending it to the full body.
That'd be my motion, send it to the full commission.
Commissioner Wright, so it's.
We have a motion by Commissioner Beverly to send this to the full post commission for a formal hearing. Second by Commissioner Wright. Do we have any discussion?
Yeah, I've got a little discussion. Commissioner Cherry has to say, I guess, and maybe I'm just have some kind of mental block here, but I still don't see what the full commission or what we would do with this certification, other than flag the record in some way so that somebody can see it later. I don't know that that we don't already have that in our record keeping. I mean, if somebody comes to Toledo, we have a record, we have a PSID number, and we can track that. It's going to show up when somebody comes in, tries to go to the academy again, or tries to go to another academy, it's going to flag. So I guess I'm just not seeing the value of bringing this up and even discussing it with the whole commission. It seems to me to be more appropriate to take no action on this and let the record stand as it is. My name is and avoid further expense and hassle paying for this for almost officer.
So agencies are not compelled to contact the post commission to ask us what somebody's past employment history is. That's why, we may have officers across the state that have a pending disciplinary matter that wind up hired somewhere. But he would not, to my knowledge, need a waiver to come back to Toledo because he never attended orientation. And even if he did, if he was going to be sent back to the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy, it would not be flagged in our system because he would be attending the same academy where he had enrolled previously, because the waiver is required to change academy. So I think we would feel comfortable on our team if the commission ordered that record flagged versus us flagging it.
Does the fact that there's a number that's been issued to him already, does that come into play here?
That number will follow him if he is, able to become certified at some point in the future. That'll be his number from here until the end of our use of ACADIS, I guess, for public safety ID numbers.
The best service of flag of sorts to point out there's something to
PSID number is essentially just like their social security numbers. It's an identifying number for that record and file in the database. At this moment, the only flag that he has is the flag for the pending decertification hearing in his file. So if this were to be moved to a no action vote, he wouldn't have anything flagged in his file, essentially, because he's not been arrested, he's not been charged, he's not attended an academy. An agency is not required to pick up the phone and call us and say, hey, what do you know about this guy? What can you tell me? He very well could just go to another county. They could not pick up the phone. They could employ him, submit an application to come back to Toledo. Toledo wouldn't know because, again, he never attended there. So, and there's no reason to ask for a waiver to change of academies. And he could very well just go back to work and attend the academy with nothing really coming before the post commission.
But I think, we still wind up in the same situation where we really don't have a basis for giving him a bad time here. I mean, this isn't going to result in any kind of violation of the pre-employment requirement. He doesn't have a conviction on his record. I don't see where we have anything that we can really or should really do with this. A lot of us have done stupid things in the past. We're glad we haven't been, put on record for them. But the fact we've done something stupid doesn't mean that that's always gonna be brought forward. It can't be brought forward unless it falls into a particular category of conviction.
Yeah.
So I just don't see justification for playing with this any further.
No, certainly, I certainly understand that. And when the agency reached out to us for guidance on how to move this forward, I just based on what we have done in the past, we've had several come before the informal committee that have not achieved that status of certification, and they've had a vote and moved it to a formal hearing, and those guys are still pending a formal hearing. So we just went based on what has happened historically here and how they've been treated. And I think it's always been looked at as we could deny a potential certification in the future, I guess. And again, it's hard to tell because we hadn't had those formal hearings, maybe not deep dive into that discussion, and had a vote said, yes, this is how we're going to do it. Those guys are still in limbo. So certainly a discussion to have, and maybe that's something to have at a formal commission to discuss with all the commissioners. I don't know.
Commissioner Wright, how long have some of those cases been in limbo?
I have to go back and look at the records, but certainly probably a year and change.
So essentially, this would be almost just making sure it's in our system for a period of time in case something happens back in the near future, saying, hey, this is something to look back at.
In the event that you do move forward with the vote to move to a formal commission, his file would be flagged that he's pending a formal commission, and any agency that would reach out to us, that would be, hey, look, there's something that may or may not prevent him in the future pending, and then that would be just resolved whenever the formal hearing or discussion with the full commission.
So it looks to me like this is a way around to just kind of putting it in a suspended status until on down the road versus going into essentially a full blown commission hearing.
Have you applied anywhere or are you?
So I have applied for Smyrna PD and I had made known of the situation. I have applied for Rutherford Sheriff's Office, made known of the situation. And I have not, Smyrna denied my request for employment. After my interview with Rutherford County, I made known of the situation. They went through with my investigative background check and the whole 9 yards. I've still yet to hear anything from them. And this has been about a month now since they started my background for Rutherford County. And currently I'm working with a buddy of mine doing exterior lighting in Brentwood.
Going back to the point, I just want to add, we in my department had a situation similar to this. And the only way it was caught was, I believe, someone from Post said, hey, we don't need to issue a Post ID. He's already got one in the why. And then upon asking, we found out some more employment history that we otherwise would not have known. And that would have affected the employment decision. And this, it doesn't seem like there's a hard, fast way to set up the system, but it's something we need. And it's a way for us to make sure that this is documented. So any other agency that begins an employment process is fully aware, whether they're relying on goodwill or the happenstance that somebody catches or doesn't issue a duplicate Post ID. So that's why I feel like my motion stands. I would call the question.
And I will say that I'm in, I see everyone's point of view with that, but I'm also in agreement with Commissioner Cherry on that as well. I mean, to me, it's one of those things that, the one, he hasn't been yet. He really has nothing going on here yet. And two, at this point, when did this event happen when you got stopped?
It was November 3rd. It was a Friday evening, approximately 2:00 in the afternoon.
November 3rd
Yes,
in
sir.
the afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Of 2023.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, I mean, unless Gallatin PD is just ain't got nothing better to do. I mean, it sounds to me like they're pretty much not going to probably wind up pressing charges on him at this point in time. If not, they've probably already done it. I would think, I would hope. So I mean, and as far as somebody making errors in their life, I mean, I'm in agreement with you on that, Mr. Chair. So.
Just so you know what I'm gonna do, and not that this is any way going to impact on what you all are gonna do, but I don't think that I can support this motion The reason I can't is because what we're looking at is either a pre-employment qualification hasn't been met, and we don't have that, or a reason for revocation. First of all, we don't have a certification to revoke it. We did. We don't have a reason for revoking it because we don't have a violence. We don't have a violation of any kind of law. I can't figure out what else we do have that would call for a revocation if there was something to revoke.
Well, and I would say this, though, that he did resign in lieu of termination for violating departmental policy. And I think that just from all the things that I see in our team reviews and sees throughout the year, that, you know, he has not even been to the police academy, not even, you know, come in for orientation, and he's already been terminated for, resigned in lieu of termination for violating department policies, which we have, you know, we've acted to decertify people today that resigned in lieu of termination for violation of department policy. So, I mean, to me, that's concerning. But I certainly understand where you're coming from as well, General.
Could I offer a suggestion? So we are able to create flags in the ACADA system. We can work with legal to create some kind of flag for these kinds of situations. And would you want to defer this case until we have that discussion and possibly a conversation with the full commission, how to handle the ones that we have pending? And then based on that decision, that would affect whether or not we need to bring him back to resolve the situation, or we may resolve that with the discussion of the full commission and just flag his ACADA's file.
And this is Commissioner Cherry. I'm questioning whether we should be flagging this at all. If we had somebody working at the jail and they did something that got them fired from the jail, is that going to flag the system? I don't think so. If you have somebody out in the community and they do something offensive or something that gets them fired from Siri Robot or from anybody else or a governmental agency, it's not a criminal violation. Is that going to flag the system? No, I don't know that it's really appropriate under these circumstances to even flag the system. If the agency that hires him wants to do a background check, that's the questions about where he's worked, what he's done. That's certainly appropriate. They can check his criminal history and everything else. They can check his high school records and talk to his former girlfriends. But that's not a reason for us to. It's not a pre-employment requirement that's not been met. It's not something we can ever be certified.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Beverly on the floor right now, and a second on that motion by Commissioner Wright to send this to the full commission. I don't think we set out before. Typically, we typically run with 3 in the informal subcommittee. We have 4 today, and we did not have an alternate set. So it's time to vote on this. And so if you are in favor of sending this to the full commission, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
The motion fails 2-2.
I think we had this problem before. We tried it again. The other direction still failed.
Yeah,
Right.
I would be somewhat, go ahead, I'm sorry. Commissioner Wright, I was gonna say, you know, I think what Mr. Director Bello brought up was a great point. I think it's something we're probably definitely to do before the full commission to get this, what do we need to do in these situations? Since we already have some pending, my thought is, why now would we have some 2 different classes if we put them all in one class? Then, hey, tomorrow if we meet and say, hey, we need to add some new business, we'll talk about it, we need to flag it, hey, these really don't qualify, then we can handle those all at one time, say, all right, we'll just do them all this way. Versus where we got some that we did no action, so we can't go back and do anything if the full commission wanted to. And then we got some that are already in that position
that we're gonna have to do something to. And then take no action or create a flagging. Just my thoughts.
So
Keeping everybody the
we talked
same.
about this tomorrow with everybody, is that kind of?
That's kind of what I'm going with. I think it's gonna have to be.
I think what Director Toller said might be the path to venture down.
Can we do that without taking any formal action?
Can we move this to next month?
Table this for.
I won't be next month, but
Well, I think
that might be your.
Maybe better.
I think what we could do is table it, just, and then based on the conversation, would depend on whether or not we need to bring him back or not. So if the conversation lends itself to where he would need to reappear, we would just contact him and put him back on an agenda. And if not, we would just contact him, let him know, hey.
It's all done. Commissioner Wright, make a motion to move it to March's agenda. And I may have grandbaby born right in there too, so I mean.
We have a motion to move it to March. Do we have a second?
Second, Commissioner Beverly.
Second by Commissioner Beverly. Any further discussion? Okay.
Now, are we talking about, just so I'm clear, so I'm perfectly clear, Commissioner Jeffers, are we talking about moving his situation till March, or are we talking about trying to find something in the software to red flag a system?
We're talking about moving his to March to bring this up again next month, when we will hopefully have had some
more discussion
and a more definitive way to flag this case, where at least our commission, our day-to-day staff at the commission could call a department up and say, hey, this person's been flagged, right? Because that's what we're talking about.
Right, and I kind of see where you're going as far as the flag. I think it would be more just for background purposes, because if we remove the decertification flag, there really isn't a way for us to really kind of catch like, oh, we need to kind of deep dive into some paperwork. It would just be something that if an agency calls us doing a background check, that would let them know that you need to call some other agencies because there's some stuff in his background that you need to look into further. So I certainly understand where you're coming from as far as not wanting to go overboard with the flag, but at the same time, I think we need to do our due diligence to let people know, hey, you kind of need to go knock on a few doors and figure out what's going on.
But once again, it's concerning Mr. Hawkins, not a software issue. If it was a software issue, software issues could take anywhere from tomorrow to a year.
I could create that flag in about 45 seconds. That'd be super easy to do.
I think it's just so that we can go back to the department and say, hey, there's been a PSID assigned before. I don't know if they disclosed this, not necessarily Mr. Hawkins, but anybody, that they make sure that they have disclosed to you that they've gone down this path before being a law enforcement officer. There was something there that you might want to ask more questions of.
Right. And we don't get into issues and details when folks call us. Hey, he worked at these agencies and this agency submitted his employment status change as resigned in lieu of termination. So it would behoove you to get with Wilson County and find out what happened in part of your background investigation. And that would be the direction we would push the agency to continue doing their background check. We wouldn't get into a 20-minute discussion of.
Then if they feel comfortable hiring, then they can absolutely move forward. Would be anything there to prevent them from being hired, going to the academy, being certified. It's just kind of your department. You might want to look a little bit deeper into this and does that person give you an honest answer of why they have a PSID? If you ask them and they say, well, I've never done this, then obviously they're lying to you about something. I think that's just kind of the gist of what we're trying to do.
So I'll say this prior voting. Do I support the software system that you're talking about doing? Yeah, that sounds like that works out pretty good. But considering the motion is concerning this, I feel differently on it, but we'll go from there. So.
We're not in the motion, unless I'm mistaken in the way I understand this, this is not to take any action on this today. It's just to put this to put this on the March agenda and hear it again in March.
Or to hopefully not hear it again.
Right. Sure.
Right. I mean, it's certainly something we can discuss tomorrow with the commission and put in front of the board and see how you want to address these types of situations moving forward. And then we can kind of address, like you said, the ones we have in the kitty already, and then this one possibly potentially coming before us in March. And depending on what the discussion is and what your vote is tomorrow, we'll know how to take care and handle that, so.
Any discussion? We have a motion to move this one to March. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. Do that real quick. Okay, we'll put this back on the March agenda, and maybe you'll hear from us to be here, maybe you'll hear from us not to be here. So
Yes, sir. Thank you.
thank you.
Tune in till tomorrow.
Tune in tomorrow. So before we conclude today, I just want to call the roll one more time for the folks that weren't here. Benjamin Moore. David Osment. Stephen Short. Aaron Davis. Jeremy Dodson. Delvin Green. Marquise Wright. Tavares Hockett. And Colton Taylor. Orlando Faison. Jeremy Singleton. Keith Garrett. Ronnie Parnell. William Wagner. Okay, the names I just read for the commissioners, they are not present today. We can do what we did in our last informal hearing, which is actually take these as a group and vote on them all together for default decertification, if that's the wish of the informal subcommittee.
We should do that in the form of a motion.
Yeah,
I wasn't here last month, so I don't know how it was worded, but I'll make a motion for a default motion for decertification. We need to put for violation of departmental policies and procedures regardless of being terminated and or resigned.
I think that would work.
Say this stuff default for
Failure to
Failure to appear.
How about that? Yeah.
There you go.
Works great everywhere else. Oh, man.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Wright. Second by Commissioner Jeffers. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And very quickly, on the two surrenders that we have, we would like to give a quick brief to the formal subcommittee on the two surrenders, Wesley Chambers of Lookout Mountain and Brandon Patterson of the Pikeville Police Department. We need to take any motion or any action on those, or can we just discuss those?
Usually we do those on the full commission day, traditionally. I don't know that it would be wrong to do them, but that has been sort of the.
Did Chambers sign the?
Chambers is a court order surrender. And then Mr. Patterson signed a order to surrender that I believe is on the agenda for tomorrow.
Just maybe you can just, it's either under new business or old business, whichever. That's.
I can do.
I mean, if we can just wait until tomorrow, I'm sure everybody would probably appreciate a motion to adjourn unless you don't want to hear it twice.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second. We have a second, all in favor? Any opposed?